Welcome. You're listening to How I Did That, a storytelling podcast. Let's jump into today's episode.
Thank you for joining me today. Very excited to have you on here because I always see your Instagram page. I haven't seen it in a while though, but I remember when I did see it in the past, it was about picking mushrooms from the wild and using them for tea, and that's all I know.
Yeah, my name is Abhi, and I moved here into the States in 2010, so it's been 10 years. That's crazy. Yeah, and I've been on an entrepreneur journey for about since say ninth grade. I tried a lot of different businesses. None of them really worked. A lot of failures, a lot of trial and error. It wasn't until me and my business partner Josh recently we decided to venture into herbalism and using herbal medicine and elixirs that we came up with the idea of chaga mushroom, foraging chaga mushroom from the wild and selling it as a concentrate. And that's been a very, very fulfilling journey, and we've been able to get that off the ground and a lot of good things on the horizon so far.
Going back to when you came here 2010 and you started all these other business ventures, can you talk a bit more about the things that you did, things that failed, and what kind of led you up to this?
Yeah, so there was always one clear vision that I had, and that was that I wanted a retreat center at some point. I didn't know how, but I knew that was clearly what I wanted, but I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it alone. So I was always seeking out partners with whatever business ventures I was doing. I was just unable to follow through with them because they weren't my heart's passion. I didn't feel like the work that I was doing was meaningful. It was graphic design, building servers for companies, even tried out animation, doing video explainers for other companies. I just wasn't able to follow through with them because it wasn't something I was passionate about. And it wasn't until I ran into Josh and he had the similar vision of a retreat center. So we decided, okay, we are both passionate about herbalism, then let's stick with this. And this one ended up getting off the ground simply because, we enjoyed what we were doing. So I guess it's as cliche as it sounds, it's this one worked because we love it.
If you love it, then it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, exactly.
But so for two things, when you say retreat center and herbalism, can you explain a bit more on those definitions?
My bad, I should have joined those two together. Herbalism, by herbalism I mean using natural medicine, stuff that the earth provides to optimize human health.
Like natural retreat center stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we are using that as an avenue to eventually, the end goal is to have our own retreat center, like a holistic healing retreat center where we would offer all kinds of different modalities ranging from massage therapy, fasting, juice cleanses, permaculture, even getting into the earth and, connecting with natural food grown on the land, meditation, and all things Eastern philosophy related, whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, etc., and stuff like that.
I hear of retreat centers where it's only if you want to water fast, right, you go to a center and do it. Or if you want to do a yoga retreat, you go do that. But you're all encompassing.
That's because we have our feet in so many different things, like sound healing, and I would like to get my permaculture design certification at some point. So whatever we can do to kind of pour all of our interests into one location and offer that's our goal.
What is permaculture, by the way?
Permaculture is basically using biological forces in your favor to get a abundance of yield out of the land. So it's the opposite of that would be monoculture. You completely cut down entire natural terrain to grow one crop, whereas permaculture is saying, okay, what does this terrain already offer us that we can leverage to produce a lot of abundance? I believe that could be a part of healing, just because people connecting with their food sources and where it comes from, and being able to grow fresh food off of the land I see that as a part of a healing process, because in the modern world we're so disconnected from our food. We think food grows in a box and comes processed. We don't see it as something that grew out of the earth, that somebody put in love and hard work to grow. And that really connects you to who we are as biological human primal beings.
Once you got Josh on board, right, and you guys had this idea, when you're starting a business, I'm sure your mind might be jumping in so many directions. Okay, I can do this and I can incorporate this, or this might fail and I can do this. So can you kind of walk us through that journey of how it got to where it is today, and how many years has it been?
Yeah, it's only been 2 years. And in the beginning, our goal was to kind of start with every single herb that we can get our hands on. And eventually Josh and my friend Kristen, they kind of took the driver's seat and they're like, okay, let's start with just one herb, really focus on that for now, and really advocate the benefits of that one herb. For now, it's been chaga. And then once that's off the ground, we can start adding in more. And that's kind of what we've been doing recently. We've been adding more and more herbs to chaga. And eventually we'd like to navigate away from chaga simply because it's not a sustainable option. We're wild foraging and you can only, scale the business so far off of something that's wild foraged. So we'd like to eventually support biodynamic farms and add in adaptogenic herbs. So we're trying to keep a category. So the goal is to stick with adaptogenic herbs as much as we can. And adaptogenic herbs are herbs that help the body adapt to fatigue and stress. So basically it gives you what you need in the moment. If you need to be relaxed and calm, it can help you with that. And if you need energy to get through the day, they can help you with that. So we've kind of stayed within that lane all along. So that way our focus didn't veer too far off into other things.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So when you figured out we're going to narrow down on chaga, it's chaga mushrooms, right?
Yep.
Where did the idea come from? We're actually going to go pluck these mushrooms from the forest.
Yeah, we were plucking the mushrooms before we even thought of turning it into a business, just because if we enjoyed doing it, we'd go out into the wild and we would just keep our eyes open for interesting mushrooms, obviously, that can make sure that we knew what we were doing, because mushrooms is
they can be poisonous too, right?
Yeah. It could be the last mushroom you ever pick. So yeah, and we were like, okay, this is something that people don't know about. And we would talk about it and people were so fascinated. So we're like, all right, let's bring this to the community. It can help people with so many different ailments because it's a very potent anti-inflammatory. And we thought that would be great to introduce to people.
You kind of had that knowledge on what you were foraging and then Okay. So how does the tea making process work?
The tea making process. So yeah, we go to Vermont every winter because that is the season that the birch trees are dormant. The birch trees are the only tree upon which chaga grows. Chaga is a parasitic mushroom, so it eats the birch tea inside out while it's alive. We go and we come back with about 100 pounds of mushrooms. We grind them up and we dry them out and brew them in a giant macro brewer for about 48 hours at about 150 degrees, and we get a concentrate out of it. The only labor-intensive part of that is the actual grinding the mushrooms, because it is a very hard mushroom. It's not a soft mushroom. But other than that, a lot of it's passive, just letting it heat up and getting the concentrate, the yield out of it.
And then when you go and pluck these, are the mushrooms kind of really high up, or how does it work? Do you know what areas they're going to be more dense in?
Yeah, so some of the mushrooms are really high up, and in the beginning we were not prepared for that. So, we get really creative, taking a giant branch and taking all of our shoelaces off. And this wasn't, we weren't doing this as a business back then, but eventually once we turned it into a business, we invested in a ladder and a hatchet and, just made sure that we were prepared for mushrooms being higher up than we intended them to be.
How big are they usually? Oh, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, they range. Some of them are really small and some of them can be really, really big. Sometimes you get I'd say about a solid 40 pounds into one. They can range all the way down to 5 pounds too.
40 pounds. Do they look like portobello mushrooms? The giant steak, people use them for burgers and stuff.
So these are different. So they do fall under the fungal kingdom, but they aren't exactly mushrooms. They look more like a wooden outgrowth, as if though the wood had a cancer or something. They don't really look like
they don't look like mushrooms.
Including body and spores and the gills underneath. They don't look like that. It just looks like giant chunks of what's the closest thing? Brownies. That's the best thing I'd say.
Interesting.
Chopping brownies into chunks.
What are properties of these mushrooms that are not found in other? Like you said, they're adaptogenic herbs, right? What are the specific properties of this mushroom?
Yeah, so besides it being very potent adaptogenic, it's also very potent anti-inflammatory. It has over 215 vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. It's an immunomodulator, so it helps regulate the immune system. So if your immune system is overactive, you can kind of tone it down, bring it back to balance, and if it is not active enough, it can boost the immune system. So that was one of the other things that was stood out to us. And it is also anti-tumorous as well, so it helps prevent cancer.
I didn't know that there can be such a thing as an overactive immune system.
An overactive immune system could eventually, from the way it could start attacking itself.
If you guys weren't making tea, right? How would you normally get the benefits of the mushroom? Would you just clean it and eat it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The mushroom is actually, all the properties of the mushroom are encased in this cell wall known as chitin. So You actually can't eat the mushroom. It's not a culinary mushroom. It's strictly a medicinal mushroom. The only way to get all the benefits out of it is either a water extraction, an alcohol extraction, or you have to smoke it.
Wait, so when you say water extraction, does that mean brewing it in water like tea?
Yep.
Okay, and then what is alcohol extraction?
That would be letting it sit in alcohol for a bare minimum of 6 weeks.
Okay, so kind of like fermenting it in alcohol?
Yeah, yep.
I see. And then,
Anyway,
smoking it.
Preserving it, basically.
Nice. Going to like the business side of things, when you started this, how did you, well, first of all, what is the name of your business? Isn't it This Is Life Itself, if I'm correct?
Yeah, so that's the Instagram page is This Is Life Itself,
Okay.
but the business name itself is Life Itself.
So right now you're solely selling like chaga teas, and then and is there only one variety of this mushroom that you're selling?
Yeah, chaga, there's only one variety. There's no lookalikes or
Oh.
other variation.
When you started getting this mushroom, like making teas and all that, what was that process like? Like, because you had to spread the word, right, that you're selling this, and how did you go about doing that? Because it's been going on for 2 years, so you probably had time before COVID, right, to get the word out there.
Yeah, the first thing we did right away was started telling our closest friends and, trying to get their feedback. And right away, we tried to get into the cheapest market we could because our budget was very slow. By market, I mean farmer's market. And it was very successful. We sold out on our first farmer's market. And from there on, we just used those funds to get into other farmer's markets. And that's kind of been the base, like the foundation of the business and how we've been able to build it up to the point where it is today. But yeah, it was the farmer's market. That was our first step.
Did you have a website at that time, or was it after that you decided to, put it up on a website?
Yeah, we pretty soon after the first market, we made a website and we started offering it online. And now that's been pretty much equally as powerful as the farmers markets or online markets.
So do you have any other form of advertising, or was it just farmers markets and then the Instagram page?
Just farmers market and the Instagram page for now, yeah.
Okay, and then with COVID,
Yeah,
has anything changed though? You're in New York right now, right? Or New Jersey?
I am in Buffalo right now.
Okay,
Buffalo. New
Buffalo.
York.
So then how far is Vermont?
6 hours.
Oh, so you can still go and drive there and you'll get
Yep,
mushrooms.
and it's a great getaway. You get away from Buffalo for a little while and you're in solitude and in amongst the mountains. It's beautiful. It's a great little vacation too.
What are the seasons like? Because does this grow year round?
It does grow year round, but we try not to pluck it until winter, just because if you pluck it in the summer or spring, it hurts the trees because the trees are very active during the time. We try to do it when the trees are dormant.
So you only have a certain time of the year you can pluck it, and then you have to make that tea last for the whole year.
Yep.
But how have you guys managed supply and demand? Like, have you found that you've been selling out, like you don't have enough?
So far, we have not had to face that problem.
That's good.
Every time it gets low, it just happens to be that it's right around winter, and we go take another trip and come back with another solid amount of another year. Yeah,
Right.
that is their goal. Eventually, to switch over completely to, or at least as I say, 90% biodynamic or organic sourced herbs. That way, we're also not, depleting a natural resource that we haven't found a way to grow it into in a laboratory setting yet.
That's right. So do they grow on every birch tree?
No, it has to be infected. So the birch tree has to have like a little injury, and from there the spores can get in, and obviously it has to be chaga around somewhere. And it's not that abundant here, whereas it's like some of Vermont, the spores are kind of all around the place, so there's more chances of the birch tree getting infected. Many years before the chaga even comes out of the tree. For most of its life, it's in the tree, just eating it out, and then eventually it pops out. And that's like, by the time it's been probably like 4 or 5 years, sometimes even longer.
First, your birch tree needs to grow, and then it needs to have an injury, and then the
spore has to be.
Thing has to be,
So a lot of things have to align for it to kind of happen.
This is where we go, wow, nature. So going into...
I know, right? It's crazy.
Do you ship worldwide?
So right now we're doing only the United States. We have not attempted to ship outside of the States yet. I don't think we've gotten an order outside of the States.
So then what other herbs would you want to branch out to in the future, and where would you find these herbs? Because I'm sure it's not that easy to just go... You'd have to forage for them, right? For any natural herb?
Yeah, so our goal is actually to switch away from foraging in the wild and actually source straight from biodynamic or organic farms. That way, not only is the supply chain more reliable, but we're also making it more sustainable from an environmental perspective. The other herbs that we're thinking about are astragalus. What else do we have on the horizon? Ashwagandha, which is also an adaptogenic herb, both of them. And we're actually focused right now on making a coffee alternative. So we have a bunch of other herbs in there that aren't adaptogenic per se, but they taste like coffee, like roasted chicory root, roasted chickpeas, roasted figs. The roasted, it tastes similar to coffee, so we're trying to blend the adaptogenic herbs into those roasted herbs, so that way we get a coffee replacement, so people can still get like the boost that they need without the caffeine, the jitters, and the crash.
Yeah, so, well, first, I've heard of ashwagandha. I have ashwagandha powder at home, which it's really bitter, so I haven't drank it a lot. And maca powder. I don't know if you've heard of maca powder.
Yeah, maca, yep.
Is that adaptogenic as well?
I guess it's considered one. It does definitely help balance out the hormones, so in a way it definitely is adaptogenic, but it doesn't fall under like the traditional adaptogenic herbs.
Oh, okay.
But it definitely has similar effects.
Okay, because a lot of the herbs you mentioned were things that, we normally won't see on a daily basis, but I did have maca and ashwagandha, which, yeah, when I tried them, they were really bitter. I didn't really know how to, like, ingest them. I guess you just have to put it in water and, like, plug my nose and drink it. Yeah, powdered.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are really bitter, I know.
Yeah, they're nasty, but they're really good for your health, like from what you're telling me and from what I've heard otherwise as well. So figs and chickpeas, that's what I was going to ask you. When you say herb, because like you can literally just eat a chickpea, a boiled chickpea, and you can eat a fig. So when you say herb, do you mean you're going to like mash the fruit, or like how are you going to do that? Take the dried fig and blend it? Because it's like jam inside.
Right. Yep, we dry it out, we get it dehydrated, and then grind it up and pulverize it into a powder.
Oh, I did not know figs and chickpeas were adaptogenic. Because those are like, I love figs, I love chickpeas.
They're not.
Oh, they're not. Okay, but
yeah,
those were the things
we're just trying to do that for the flavor, so we can still make the blend taste like coffee.
Oh, but so those contribute a coffee flavor?
Once roasted, yes.
Interesting.
Similar. Yeah, especially chickpeas. It's like you think of roasted chickpeas, like that tastes like coffee. It does.
Yeah, interesting. And chicory root. Right. When do you expect to have these coffee items rolled out?
So the coffee, the main equipment that we need to make that happen is a freeze dryer, which we just invested in, and we're still wrestling with it and getting it to work properly. And we're gonna go through a lot of trial runs, taste testing. I'd say by spring next year we'd have a full finished product out, and this will also be our avenue to branch out into the online world, because it's a dry product and it's a lighter product, so it's so much easier to ship versus like the chaga that we were doing, and it's liquid, and sometimes we'd have issues with customers complaining the bottles broke along the way, and they're heavy, so they can't ship too.
I thought you guys are shipping like dry tea, so we make the tea at home.
We do both. We do the brew your own as well, but people seem to like the already brewed version more, just because it's already done for you. That's been a lot more popular. It's pretty shelf stable, so I'd say like there's not a huge difference in the taste. I feel like the only thing that would make a difference would be like the type of water you use if you were gonna brew it at home for yourself. That would influence the taste. Do
you guys use like filtered water or something? Some kind of like other water?
Yeah, we use filter. Yep. Our filter where there's no mineralizer, so it's pretty like, I guess it would be considered dead water, meaning there's nothing in it. It's pretty close to distilled water, which is not some type of water you'd want to drink every day for hydration, but it's great for extracting substances like constituents out of a herb or something.
If you're brewing tea, you'd want to brew it in distilled water to be able to get the nutrients out of it?
You don't have to, but we do that just so we can get everything out of it. Because distilled water is looking to like saturate itself, right? It's like unsaturated, so it's just suck up everything that it can to make itself whole.
But people like convenience, so
they do.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Can you drink it cold? Does it taste good cold, or do people just drink it hot?
You can do it hot or cold.
Like, what do you prefer?
I prefer hot. I usually blend other teas in there. Like, I'll have it as the base, and then I'll throw in like yerba mate or hibiscus or rose or something else in there. Just add more flavor, a little bit of honey maybe.
With the coffees, are you guys going to be having liquid coffee as well, or are you going to be doing the brew it at home?
It's going to be an instant mix.
Okay.
So we're trying to make it as like quick and easy and accessible as possible for people, so they can just grab like a packet and take it to work, and rather than reaching for that second cup of coffee, you can consume something that's a little bit more nourishing for the adrenals.
Going back to the other adaptogenic herbs, you didn't want to extract them through foraging, right? Because just for sustainability purposes. So who is going to be, or where are you getting them from?
No, we are sourcing from biodynamic farms wherever we can find them. Most of them are closer to the equator, what we're finding. And farmers that are already doing it, and they're doing a great job. We want to support them. and to create like a consistent supply chain. I feel like we don't have the knowledge and the skill set to be able to do that on a mass scale or the property at the moment. But yeah, at some point, I'd say some of the herbs, we'd like to grow them ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're not 100% sure yet either.
Yeah.
That's the process. That's the journey of,
Right.
making relationships with farmers and whatnot.
But it would definitely be cool if over time you were able to like grow some of these on your own, and then you are your own supply chain, so you wouldn't have to rely on like external suppliers as well. So I wanted to ask you about the retreat. Like, how far away of a project is this, or is it just like an inkling of an idea?
Yeah, it's actually the latter. It's just an idea in our head, and we are definitely thinking of it being somewhere warmer because neither me or Josh like the winters here. They're long, excruciating, and painful. So we like it to be somewhere, preferably even outside of the States, like Puerto Rico or something. But yeah, other than that, we don't have like a clear image other than the fact that it's gonna incorporate all kinds of holistic healing modalities. We're letting the chips kind of fall where they do, because we found over time that kind of no matter how much you tell yourself like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and this, things never unfold the way you plan to, especially in business. Like, you don't know how it's going to unfold. So our goal is just to be steadfast with our vision of the retreat center, but be completely flexible with how that unfolds, because we just don't know what the future holds.
No,
so
that's
we're kind of allowing it to brew in our minds and become more and more clear as time goes on.
Oh, that's amazing. I went to Puerto Rico last year, actually, and it was a blast. People are amazing there, and very warm, very nice, super like party city. It's a fun place to be.
That sounds like my kind of vibe.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a part of the U.S., so it was nice that there were things written in English, although a large part of the population did speak Spanish. Like, you didn't have to do any currency exchange. You kind of knew what to expect because it was a part of the U.S., so it had all the major supermarkets as well. Can you talk a bit more about holistic healing? I personally don't know too much about that. How did you get started with holistic healing?
I started with, it was a lecture I saw by this man named Paul Chek, and he was lecturing on organic farming and why it's important, and why it's important for the health of the planet, why it's important for our health as human beings, the health of the animals.
So organic farming as in no pesticides or anything of that nature?
Yep. Taking care of the soil, basically. And that kind of changed my life. At that moment, I knew like somehow this was going to be a part of my life. I didn't know how. But from there on, I started sourcing organic myself. I saw a huge difference in my energy levels, my vitality, and slowly started educating myself more on like how to optimize my own diet for myself. And I saw these like ailments, that nagging ailments that kind of just vanish on their own just by taking care of myself. Same thing with my family, with my cousin, helped him a lot. And then I saw the power of like treating the human body as a whole, as a part of this earth, as an emotional, spiritual being, not just like pumping down pharmaceuticals and covering up symptoms. So yeah, that was kind of like my journey with it, and I feel like that's kind of what the Western world needs a lot these days.
Doctors just kind of hand you a pill, because that's what they've learned. It's not preventative, it's more like cover it up once it happens.
Yeah, cover it up. Yeah.
What are the different types of holistic healing? I'm sure that's a really general term, right? Because you had mentioned some that you wanted to incorporate into your retreat, but can you touch a bit on the different types? And like what worked for you?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things would be diet and like some sort of spiritual practice, having whether it's meditation or yoga. Those are some of the basic ones. And then people are into different things. Some people practice like chiropractic. I guess that would fall under holistic, massage therapy, Reiki, past life regression therapy, energetic healing. I've never got it done myself before, but I know some people offer that as well. Herbalism, this guy like Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine would fall under that as well. Yeah, pretty much everything outside of like the traditional pharmaceutical model, I'd say, kind of falls under that in a way.
Can you talk a bit about how you've changed your diet to kind of help heal yourself? Yeah,
the biggest thing is just eating like real food, going from eating processed like packaged crap to eating real food that grew on the earth and walked on the earth. And for me, the biggest thing was taking out like the biggest stressors: gluten, corn, dairy, and soy. Yeah. Once I removed those, I felt a lot better. But yeah, the main thing was just switching over to real food.
What about like organic produce? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's just like it should be the foundation, just the base, because we humans evolved eating organic food, since the dawn of mankind, and pesticides are a fairly recent invention into our food system. So it's best to just eat a diet that's evolutionarily consistent rather than try to be a guinea pig and experiment with these chemicals.
I feel like I'm missing something, like in terms of your journey.
I'd say the biggest thing, the factor that kind of pushed us, was me and Josh were working at a cafe, and it was very stressful, very, very stressful. We were working overtime and not getting paid for it, and the bosses never appreciated us. And I remember we were both sitting in our apartment that we could barely afford, and there's no furniture. We were just laying on our yoga mats, and either like we were both at the brink of tears, or he was crying or I was crying. I don't know what it was. We were both in a lot of emotional pain. And that's when we kind of decided, like, dude, we have to do something to get out of this and live the kind of life that we want to live. Offering something meaningful, making the retreat center happen, or at least starting the journey to that vision. And obviously, like, taking care of ourselves. We can't be working for, this job. And that was the day when we were like, okay, we have to do something. And life itself came out of that. And here we are today. Fast forward 2 years, and we finally have it off the ground. So that's kind of like the turning point, was like that pain and struggle at that job, and it helped us realize what we don't want.
No, did you guys do you guys have like a team otherwise, or is it just you and Josh?
It's me and Josh, and we have a friend. Her name is Brittany, and we have another partner. Her name is Kristen, but she's in Hawaii right now. She got out of good time.
Yeah, exactly. And so where do you hope to see yourself in the next 10 years, I would say?
Yeah, I'd like to see that retreat center a reality, and I'd like to work one-on-one with people with autoimmune issues. That's like kind of like my passion, chronic diseases and stuff like that. I really like working one-on-one. Yeah, I'd like to have my own practice, like within the retreat center or outside, wherever that ends up happening. And I'd also like to have that retreat center outside and offer that as a place where people can go to reconnect and find community and find healing, kind of take a break from the day-to-day grind and kind of find themselves. I know this sounds like kind of corny, but yeah, that's what we're kind of trying to offer.
So where can people find the teas?
You can go to thislifeitself.com, and you can order straight off that website. For now, we are shipping everywhere within the United States, but we will get the international shipping handled in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. I mean, I'm sure the shipping is slowed down too because of COVID, because I think it's more expensive too. Looking forward to that though, because I want to try the coffee next year too, and I'm going to order the chaga tea.
Hey, yes, I can't wait to get your
excited
feedback
for that. I'll put the link in the description of the podcast.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's great. It was such an honor, in fact, that thought of me, and this is so beautiful seeing that you're blossoming and doing this thing. I love watching people do things that are meaningful to them, and yeah, it's just glad that you had me on the show.
Thank you. I was so honored to have you on as well.
Take care.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and we'll see you next time.